All
Charles
right.
cracked a beer. I think he's in for the episode.
I'm going to stay on for a little, and you'll just see me just log off. I'm not even going to say anything.
Welcome to another episode of Five Idiots Talking Toys. It's time for a fun topic. We are going to jump into a little background of the Kenner Toy Company and mostly learn about kind of what went wrong towards the end of their run. I guess something went wrong because they ended up selling to, in the end, Hasbro, but I don't know what happened in between. I would love to learn this story. We're going to bring in our storyteller next. Christopher Walminster's here.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Of course. And you've gone. I believe you left your wife and family for about 8 days. You went into an underground vault. You did all the research, sequestered yourself, and now you've come back with all the results.
I flew to Cincinnati, I flew back, and I locked myself into a room just doing research on this one and only topic.
Right.
So the show.
So somehow Kenner's properties ended up with Hasbro, and we're going to learn how. Brandon is very excited about this topic. He's going to stop listing stuff on Rogue 5 Toys for about 20 minutes so that he can be part of it.
How did you know?
Charles told me. He knows what you're over there doing.
Hasbro owns Kenner.
They own the old Kenner properties, or I guess they own Kenner, right? Because they actually do put.
They owns Kenner and then they close it.
don't they put out some like retro toys with Kenner logo on it?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, they own the whole thing.
All of the Star Wars stuff that comes out has the Kenner logo on it, except for the Black Series stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, right. So what do I know? Not much, but what do I know is Kenner was headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. I think most Star Wars fans or fans who had the toys at one point know that because there's been a lot of, there's been documentaries. There's been a lot of talk about the people that worked at Kenner, being around Cincinnati. And a lot of stuff has been unearthed around that area that were, first shots or, prototypes or whatever that kind of just made it out to family members or people that worked there, took some of them home. So I know that. And I don't know how they started. I don't know how they ended. I know that they were, around for quite some time and they had a lot of success. I mean, at the height of Star Wars, I have a hard time believing that they weren't maybe the number one toy company in the country, but something went awry, and we're gonna learn what. How you guys doing?
Good. My rash is gone. My hives are gone, and I am back to normal. My stomach still looks the same. It's still big. It's still jiggly, but the rash is gone.
Right. Okay. Good.
I am pumped for this topic. I don't know what happened to Kenner, and I'm looking to find out.
It's been a huge mystery all these years.
Well, I mean, let's go ahead and prep everybody just for the sake of avoiding the surprise. If Chris starts lifting his shirt up, if he starts putting his hands down his pants, that's normal for him right now. So don't take offense. Don't think
about
anything.
Kenner.
It's tough times.
Tough times. He's
thinking about Kenner, and
he's been working out with Tom Brady, and he's allergic to Tom Brady apparently.
He puts the lotion on his skin.
Yeah. For anybody who didn't see our last wins and whiffs, Chris took a shot, biorhythms or steroids or something.
Wolverine.
Peptide.
Wolverine. So he started growing. Hair.
Completely different.
He started growing hair from his stomach on top of the hair.
Let me just go on live and say,
he's injecting himself with peptides, right?
Hey guys, I'm doing steroids. Yeah.
So he's taking vitamins of some sort, and he had a massive reaction on Star Wars Daddy. So please go check out that episode.
From the Jose Canseco line of products.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I don't look like Jose Canseco, and I'm not hitting home runs 500 feet. So,
No. All right. So, all right, let's jump into the topic. John is not with us, but I'm sure he's going to be amped to edit this episode to hear all the story.
I know John originally had this question last week. He wanted to know, why did Kenner die? Why did Kenner sell to Hasbro? So he's probably going to label it like, why did Kenner sell to Hasbro? Or why did Kenner die? And the truth of it is, Kenner didn't actually sell to Hasbro. That never happened.
Just Googled it.
Kenner, Charles, this is my episode. Let me
No,
tell you.
I'm just saying.
Kenner actually sold to Tonka. Tonka owned Kenner, and then Hasbro actually bought Tonka. So basically what happened is that Kenner is coming up, in the 70s, early 80s, and they are booming with these Star Wars figures. Their sales are doubling each year. They're going hundreds of millions of dollars extra every quarter each year because of Star Wars.
And the backstory there, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, is nobody else wanted to take the Star Wars license because I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it needed to be so rushed. Like there wasn't a lot of time. And so Kenner was kind of like a little, like
a little toy company.
A little toy company, down the street. And all of a sudden they agreed to
hit the lottery with Star Wars.
They hit the lottery, right.
Yeah. So now it's, 1985, Star Wars figures was the last time they were made, but now we're talking like 1987. Sales are down. People are not buying as much stuff as they were because Star Wars was by far their number one. Now, not to mention that Kenner has put out a bunch of amazing, amazing lines. We will go over that at the end where I hand wrote down like 50 of them that are really cool toy lines that everyone will know and hear of. But towards the late 80s, their sales are down now. There was a company called, I'm going to read it, New World Entertainment. They were owned by Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics or New World Entertainment really wanted to buy Kenner. They had like 900 characters that they wanted to make into figures, and they wanted to do like this whole entire thing. They were pretty much pressuring Kenner to be bought out by them, and they did not want to be bought out by them because I think they were going to dissolve the whole management company, just basically dissolve the whole company and kind of just do what they wanted with it. So Kenner basically sold themselves to Tonka. Tonka ended up offering them more money per share. I think it was like $51 a share, where New World Entertainment was only giving them $47. So they basically sold themselves to Tonka because at that time they were not making that much money because the Star Wars line is dead. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of their sales is coming from.
Well, they probably had gotten bloated, right? I mean, they probably hired a lot of staff during the Star Wars time. Absolutely. They probably extended themselves in a number of different ways, whether it was credit line. I mean, I'm just making this up. Just knowing business, I mean, they grew and grew and grew, and you've got to do certain things to continue that growth. And then all of a sudden, when the bottom drops out and you don't have anything sliding into to build up sales, like all of a sudden you're upside down in some areas.
Was that in that like 91 is when they sold the Tonka, right? I think I remember reading something on it. No, before that?
1987.
Oh, okay.
So they sold to Tonka in 1987.
2 years after they were done with Star Wars, they were basically out of business.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, they weren't out of business. I mean, they were still valuable,
but I think they saw the writing on the wall where, like, let's just say they were like a $400 million company. Then it dropped down to like a 300, maybe 200. They saw that the sales were going down. So why not take advantage, probably sell, make some money now and, team up.
So did Tonka buy the license basically to show Kenner? Because I remember Kenner still did stuff in the late 80s, early 90s. With the Kenner logo on it. So I'm assuming Tonka owned them and they just used the...
So Tonka owned them, but Tonka kept Kenner exactly the way it was.
Kept it as a subsidiary, probably.
Kept all of its management, didn't fire anybody. From what I've read, they didn't fire anybody. Kept the whole management team, everybody. All of the creators, they were still allowed to have the same creative, imaginations that they would as if with Kenner. They basically were just teaming up with Tonka because they knew that their days were pretty much getting to be numbered. and Tonka's like vision aligned with them better than this new world entertainment company.
So so then, obviously the extra bonus beyond the money was it sounded like Tonka was going to clean house, and a lot of the creatives and executives or whatever got to stay around in the Tonka deal. They didn't.
Yeah, pretty much.
They got to work under Tonka instead of getting fired.
They already had the classic toy truck line. So Kenner was already doing Play-Doh, and they did Monopoly. So the toy trucks kind of aligned with that already. Not to mention the other toy lines that they were doing. So it was the best of both worlds for both of them. But unfortunately, with Tonka, they were in massive debt for the next 4 years, to the point where they couldn't build themselves out of it.
So they overextended to buy Kenner.
They pretty much overextended to buy Kenner, and I'm assuming, I don't really need to assume, but let's just say Kenner did not catch the golden goose again, and it just kept getting worse for them for sales. So, which meant Tonka now was taking on the loss, and they were just in massive amounts of debt that Hasbro then stepped in and ended up buying Tonka and Kenner, both of them.
Wow.
So,
it's not easy to dig into like the private financials, but it's probably an interesting story. Whatever Hasbro did to, pull them out of being underwater. I mean, Hasbro, I don't know how much bigger they were at the time, or how much cash they were sitting on or whatever, but it's probably an interesting.
Apparently, the goal was that
story.
Like Hasbro did make an offer or wanted to buy them originally, but Kenner at the time wanted to compete with Mattel and Hasbro. They wanted to be like the third toy line of choice. And I guess by themselves, they just couldn't hack it. So by teaming up with Tonka, they thought that they could, but Tonka just ended up getting so much debt by it because the goose never got golden again.
Well, like that reminds me, Brandon, I was just going to say, it reminds me of like the cell phone companies, right? Like you had AT&T and Verizon for the longest time. And then always third fiddle was Sprint, right? And Sprint, I think Sprint bought someone out, and then along came T-Mobile like a bunch of years later. They started getting bigger, and then Sprint and T-Mobile merged. And it was like, okay, we're either going to, I'm sure it was either we're going to get bought out by either AT&T or Verizon, or we've got to come up with another plan in order to compete. So they merged, and they took like the third and fourth company, put them together, and now they're like legit competitors. There's just the three of them. It's kind of like that. Like you either have to get bought out or team up.
When Singular got bought out by AT&T. Did
it go into like when they actually closed the doors? So basically Kenner in the
Hasbro
mid-90s when they made the Power of the Force 2 line. Like I think that was like the final straw where they started to close Kenner after that, close down the factory and their administrative staff. And
Hasbro closed down Kenner in 2000.
Okay, so
that's when
the late 90s, it was Kenner's last breath of actually their own creative license until Hasbro took over basically the whole thing.
Yeah, I think like the last office.
Yeah, and then Hasbro produced the toys from then on. And instead of Kenner actually touching the figures, it was Hasbro with Kenner's name, but it was all Hasbro.
Yeah, I believe it's like the last office in Cincinnati that was doing Kenner stuff closed in 2000.
So they must have done the prequel trilogy, right? Or at least the first...
The draft, maybe.
The first
I would say,
yeah. I think it was the Power of the Force line until the prequels, and then I think Hasbro took off from there. And I think what happened is that a lot of the people from Kenner were allowed to go over to Hasbro.
Some of the designers definitely went, right?
Stuff. Yeah, and then I know a lot of them, retired, and they're like, "No, I don't want to work. I don't want to move." And they were all like, they stayed put in Cincinnati. So
Hasbro paid. 486 million to 516 million for Tonka. And
Tonka, even though it was $51 a share, estimate wise was $555 to $622 when they bought Kenner. So they bought Kenner, and now Hasbro buys Tonka and Kenner for less.
Oh, you're saying for like $6 a share?
Tonka bought Kenner.
Yeah.
It was like $51 a share, basically.
Right.
Whereas New World Entertainment offered them $47 a share. Tonka came in above because they said that no one's going to offer more than 51 because it probably was not worth it.
Right.
So, but estimates it's worth around $555 to $622. That's pretty much what Tonka paid to acquire Kenner.
Oh, okay. All right.
But now Hasbro comes in and buys both of them
For less.
for $400 million.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of debt. They took on a lot of debt over the next 4 years.
Which was like about like $5 a share.
Oh God.
Wow. So from $51 a share for Kenner to $6 a share for Kenner and Tonka together.
I mean,
So did Phantom Menace figures, do they have the Hasbro logo on them? Or was that possibly Kenner?
No, it was all Kenner logos from what I remember. On the back, you'll see it says, Hasbro company or whatever.
on the bottom, yeah.
Yeah, on the copyright. Yeah.
It's still mind-boggling to me because I'm going to read you, and this is just the companies that most of us will know offhand of how much stuff Kenner has done. They actually list the amount of toy lines and how much stuff that they have done, and it's mind-boggling. They had their hands in everything. But I can just read you a quick list of about 20 of all the stuff that they did. It's crazy.
I want to see if Charles knows 5.
I'll probably know most of them.
Let's see.
So I'm going to go.
5.
I
Name
went
5.
I went in alphabetical order, and I wrote them down. So if Charles wants to name 5, and
Name 5, Charles. Let's see. Can you get 5?
I can't name them. I'll just hold up my fingers while he's talking. If I
Okay. Okay.
I can't name them.
Well, you're talking about the toy lines is what you're about to reveal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of Strawberry Shortcake, we know about. I only know about that actually just from our buddy talking about how he went from Star Wars design to that toy line.
It's kind of easy to pick them because if you were an 80s or 90s kid, all of their products, all of their packaging, except for Star Wars, like pretty much look the same.
Yeah, they're all
so like Kenner Batman looked the same as Demolition Man, looked the same as the Robin Hood figures that look the same as Terminator figures.
Terminator.
I mean, I just named 4 or 5 right there, and they all had the same packaging. So if you were
they used the same Ewok battle wagon and the same Ewok. What's the
Gamorrean guard mold for Little John?
No, the battle wagon and the battle wagon and the Sherwood Forest.
Sherwood Forest,
the Ewok Village were the same.
It's literally the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But here are some companies that Kenner worked on. This is also into the 90s also. So we're not just talking about the early 80s. They're in their heyday. So we got Aliens, we got Batman, Beetlejuice, Bill and Ted's, Care Bears.
Oh my God, Care Bears is huge.
Centurions.
Yeah.
They did Chuck Norris. They did the Easy Bake Oven. G.I. Joe. Indiana Jones.
Wait, how do they do G.I. Joe?
Hasbro's G.I. Joe.
It has it here as Kenner.
I don't know.
Unless they are taking credit for it, but it's
Kenner probably did it for Hasbro.
It's on their website as them taking.
I don't know. Every GI Joe I've seen has a Hasbro stamp.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But maybe they had like the early help to it. I have no idea. But they have GI Joe. They have Indiana Jones. They have, and this one's actually huge that people never talk about. Jurassic Park.
Yeah. That was what I was thinking of earlier.
And that was big.
That's huge.
That's when Tonka owned them. So
and those toys are worth so much money.
Yeah,
are they?
Oh yeah!
Wow.
Jurassic Park toys are worth a lot.
Park, yeah,
they're worth money.
Yeah, sealed they are.
You got Knight Rider. You got The Mask, Planet of the Apes, Play-Doh, obviously, which is what how they started. Predator. You got the real Ghostbusters because they were Ghostbusters too.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, RoboCop, Silverhawks, $6 Million Man, starting lineup, which was tremendous when starting lineup.
Oh my God, they did starting lineup?
Tremendous.
Yeah, all these ones you're naming, they all had the same packaging.
It's the same. It's all the same style. Like,
Yeah, it's all the same. Yeah, the same look.
but starting lineup was huge. It's actually bigger than, because then I started reading about that. It
Yeah,
was bigger than I ever thought it was.
I've got two of them right.
I mean, it
there.
died fast, but it was huge.
They're worth 50 cents.
It's worth 50 cents. Yeah, but
Yeah, there you go.
Kenner, see,
Yeah, there's such a big
Dave
toy
Winfield.
company. It's just amazing to me that they would go under, because when I think of like all these movies that would come out, like Kenner would be the one. I mean, my favorite toy line that I like to mention is Last Action Hero, because with Arnold, but it was such a movie, right? And then you're like, they made toys for that, and it's just like, man. And nowadays they don't make toys for anything. Actually, I went to Target the other day and I found that there's this new Stranger Things show out, Tales from 1985. It's a cartoon.
It's a cartoon, right?
a cartoon, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and there's actually toys out for that. And I actually was like, oh, all right. They're making toys for something for once. Like, good. I'm happy they're making new toys. And I don't know who makes them, but they used to make toys for every line that Chris has listed, and it's just like, man, it's sad that they're not around to do that.
There's 6 more. Star Wars, obviously, Strawberry Shortcake, Superpowers, which was tremendous also. Superpowers.
Yeah.
Superman, Swamp Thing, and Terminator. Now, this is just to literally name a few. There were hundreds more of things that everyone would recognize. But to think that they even still went out of business or were in debt is just mind-boggling to me.
So I think that that was one of their downfalls, was the fact that they would make toys for everything that came out.
For everything.
Because I don't know how many kids, like, unless you're a huge Swamp Thing fan, it was like a, comic, movie, whatever, TV show, and it's like, once that's done, right? So then you spend all that money trying to produce these figures and starting lineup, right? And it's like, you spend all this money making that stuff and you're not getting any of the money back because people are just like, after a little while, and I think that they overextended, which is...
It's almost like having too many hands in the cookie jar almost. There were so many cookies and everyone wanted to eat them, but at some point you get stuff. You just can't.
That's kind of what we've been talking about with Funko lately. Like, Funko has got to get all these licenses. They've got to pay all these licenses.
They overextended, and that's their main problem. And I think, like you go to a restaurant and if they have 4 things on the menu, you're like, man, these only 4 things. And you're like, well, these 4 things on the menu are amazing.
Are going to be
locked to the Cheesecake Factory. You go to the Cheesecake Factory and their menu is 35 pages long, and you're like, oh my God. I'm like, what am I going to pick? There's so many things.
Cheesecake Factory is the menu is a great example, but like, it is literally like they have multiple kitchens there. I used to work with a guy who worked there, and he said you can't even believe what's going on behind the scenes. But your typical like in town restaurant that has like 2 long sheets, like a diner, you might as well just walk out. Like, don't even eat there, because there's no way they're making Mexican food and Polish food and German. Like, there's no way it's all good.
So not to get on a tangent about food, that I was just trying to use them as an example, but
You already do.
but I think Hasbro using GI Joe and Transformers were their 2 big money makers, and that's all they focused on was that.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I know they made some other stuff. They made some board games and some other stuff like that. But like, those are the 2 big lines that I recognize immediately from Hasbro, or Transformers and G.I. Joe. And they are still making those to this day. And I think they've been good on just focusing on that. Obviously, they took over Kenner and Star Wars, but you notice that they didn't revive any other lines other than Star Wars.
No.
They don't have anything going. Maybe the Indiana Jones, but that was short-lived again. Nobody bought that. But
They make Monopoly, right? Hasbro?
No, Hasbro. Monopoly
Mattel, maybe? I don't know.
No, Monopoly's Parker Brothers.
Oh,
but I don't know who owns Parker Brothers now, but Monopoly is Parker Brothers. So that might be Hasbro, but I don't think it was Kenner though.
I think Hasbro owns them.
I just read about this.
I mean, I'm looking at a list of toy lines. Spirograph
Oh yeah.
is Kenner. I mean, that's been around for 70 years.
So Hasbro owns Monopoly. They just put out the most anticipated like slot machine in like the most longest time. Was it Monopoly? This new Monopoly slot machine.
Hasbro has Monopoly because according to this, Kenner had Monopoly.
Really? Did Kenner buy Parker Brothers though?
It says Tonka sought to combine its classic toy truck line with Kenner's portfolio, which included Play-Doh and Monopoly, to create a stronger, more stable competitor against the giants of Hasbro and Mattel.
God, Kenner was huge, but small at the same time.
Well,
so maybe they weren't promoting Monopoly that good or pushing it out there, but I mean, again, that's
I
what I'm
don't see
reading.
Monopoly on this list, but this might just be toy lines and not games. But
I think, it's just toy lines.
Just to clear up that thing about the G.I. Joe, I might have the answer. They sold something called Microverse. And Microverse, they have it listed, The Adventures of Batman and Robin, G.I. Joe, Harley Davidson, and Superman. So they might have done like a specific line of miniatures or something that had a G.I. Joe like license, you know? But yeah, I mean, they had a ton, Jurassic Park Lost World, Superman, you know, some flavor of Superman. I don't know what it was, but they had just a ton of stuff.
You know what I was trying to find? Do you guys remember something about like the Star Wars license? Whoever bought it, they were supposed to pay X amount of dollars at this time, and then the person never paid, and then they ended up. What's the exact story for that? Because I tried to Google it, but I wasn't able to explain it properly.
For Star Wars?
Yeah.
I think it was from the Toys That Made Us. I think they went into the whole process on how they acquired Star Wars and how they
someone was supposed to pay like a royalty fee. There was supposed to be like
I think it was something like that might have been part of the downfall of Kenner, is that
and it was supposed to be made X amount of times on this time, and they
they needed to pay like a very minimal fee by a certain date. And it was like, you know, it was a footnote in the contract, but it was all they had to do to keep the license.
And at
some point they missed the payment. Like, payment wasn't late. Like, they just didn't make it one year.
Yeah.
And so then Lucas retained all the rights, like no longer was stuck with a license where he was making very little. And then I think Kenner had to like come up with a whole new contract to get Star Wars back. And it was so in favor of Lucas at that point. So they lost their honeypot.
Yeah, it was something like that. I was trying to look that up, but I just couldn't word it properly to actually get the right description.
Yeah.
It was like you said, it was like a minuscule payment that they literally. It might have been like $1 or something.
It might have been like 10,000 or something like that. But it was like a drop in the bucket of Star Wars sales,
and they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And then he pulled the license, and then they had to renegotiate the deal with them, and
like he
and pay 20 times more.
I'm sure he never thought that would happen, and all of a sudden he found out that it happened. He was able to pull the license. But so to go backwards, Kenner made an amazing deal for themselves with Lucas because there was no Star Wars. He was coming out with the first one. Nobody knew what Star Wars was. Nobody knew if it was going to be a flop or what. And no toy company wanted to take on all the expense and the effort to get a toy out in less than a year. And Kenner, we've heard this story before. The guy who owned Kenner or was in charge, got talked into it. Like, hey, this is going to be really big, blah, blah, blah. And so they went for it, and they were able to negotiate a really, really friendly deal for themselves because Lucas had nothing to go on. I mean, nobody knew George Lucas. Like, he had never done anything. He'd done American Graffiti. That was it. So they got themselves a really good deal money-wise. So from, the first 3 movies, they made so much money because they were keeping a lot of it. And so then when they lost the license, they got pennies on the dollar in the next contract because Lucas had all the leverage then.
Pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Well, That's pretty much the story behind it. It's still just like, I mean, hard to believe, but like Brandon said, I think they were just taking on too much and spending money elsewhere instead of focusing on a more narrow, core group of toy lines. Kind of reminds me of like Remco, like how Remco was literally just doing toy lines for everything.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at. I found something that says the history. I mean, it's just started in 1947, and they came out with Play-Doh in 1956, and it was just in white. Then the next year they came out with 3 new colors. But I mean, you're right. Play-Doh is what got them going. And 63 they introduced Easy Bake Oven.
Then kept them going.
Actually, in 1965, General Mills purchases Cincinnati-based Rainbow Crafts, which was the Play-Doh manufacturer. I guess I don't know what the dynamic was there, but Kenner sold the Play-Doh, but Rainbow Crafts was the manufacturer. And I never understood that whole General Mills thing. You know how there's like that General Mills logo on the back of Star Wars figures?
On Star Wars too, yeah.
Yeah, so it says in 1965, General Mills, which to me, that's the cereal company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. General Mills purchases Rainbow Craft, and then 2 years later purchases Kenner. So Kenner first sold themselves in 1965. And there you go. Here's your answer. General Mills in 1968 purchases Parker Brothers. So they purchased Kenner, and then a year later purchased Parker Brothers. That's how they got monopoly.
So how did Kenner get out from under General Mills? Because I remember some of the General Mills stuff on the start, like you just said. I just remember some of the General Mills stuff on Star Wars.
The first couple of years, and that was it.
Right. So Rainbow Crafts is merged into Kenner Products in 1970, and Play-Doh becomes part of the Kenner line. So, Kenner... Maybe Kenner did not sell Play-Doh until that point. Maybe it was just Rainbow Crafts.
I mean, because they came out with Star Wars Play-Doh, and as soon as StarArs came out, they had Play-Doh.
Right. So in 1970, Play-Doh becomes part of Kenner's line officially. Then in 73, Kenner introduced Baby Alive, which became the #1 baby doll of the year. In 1975, Kenner breaks the $100 million sales mark for the first time. That same year, they introduced the $6 million Man action figures, which became a huge success. Then they introduced the next year Stretch Armstrong in 76.
Yeah, they didn't mention
and then the next year, 77, we know what happens. They negotiated a license for the Star Wars property, which became for sure their most successful toy line. And one of the brothers who started Kenner, who was one of the founders, passed away that year. And by 78, they broke the $200 million sales mark because of Star Wars. And, Empire Strikes Back, Strawberry Shortcake, new colors of Play-Doh by 83. Care Bears came out in 83. Huge. And then Kenner establishes manufacturing operations in Tijuana, Mexico. So is that the same as Lily Letty was a separate company, right?
Yeah, that was a Mexican company.
That's just a Mexican company.
Okay. So
they contracted them out to make the toys. They weren't a Star Wars company at all.
So 84 Superpowers, 85 Mask, Kenner Parker Toys, the country's 4th largest toy company, is spun off from General Mills in 85. It then did the real Ghostbusters in 86. And then in 87, we already talked about Tonka Corporation acquires Kenner Parker Toys.
These are all big toy lines each year. They still had a winner each year.
In 1988, Tonka establishes 4 operating divisions: Kenner Products, Parker Brothers, and Kenner Products serving U.S. and Tonka International. And starting lineup was launched in 88. What year are these from?
Early 90s, probably?
No, I think they're from the 80s. These are from 88. This is the first year of starting. This is my own Don Mattingly, like that I never opened in the package. This is like the only toy that I have left for my childhood. I was 10 or 11 when I
really?
got this. Yeah, this is, and the start. This Dave Winfield might be 89. So this is the second series with that extra card. But I got this at a card show, like one of the only card shows I ever went to. And I've held on to it somehow all these years. I lost everything else.
One of the things that I used to do before my dad would drop me off, like at middle school and stuff, was we'd stop by Walmart in the morning. There's a Walmart right next to the school, right when they open. And I remember going there with him and finding sealed boxes of starting lineup. And we would open them there. And the hockey figures, the goalies were the ones that were worth the most because they're one per box.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted the goalies. I remember.
And they were like heavier, right?
Yeah, they were
I
bigger
remember
figures.
getting the goalies from there, and also like going to Toys R Us and finding the same thing, like a box that was unopened, sitting right there, opening it up and finding like, Michael Jordan figures and like those Jordan figures are worth a fortune now. But like,
I don't know what these sold for.
All these figures, so none of this stuff is worth anything anymore except for the Jordan figures. I think is the only thing worth money. No. The cards that come with those figures are actually worth money, believe it or not. The cards that come with, like that Don Mattingly card that's in there, right? That card might be worth, a graded PSA 10 Don Mattingly might be worth like a couple $100. You never know.
Yeah.
So I have sold many starting lineups on the page. Most of them have all sold for $5 to $10, whether loose or sealed. Yeah. Pretty much the same price. Cream Abdul-Jabbar loose is $5. I sold them sealed, $5.
Well, when these were retail, they must have been $5 at most,
like $6 probably.
Yeah, in 1988. So you can see on the front of this.
I would think even less than that, but
you can see on the front of this like one-off, orange sticker. That's the sticker from the card show that I went to.
Resale, yeah.
So this is the resale price. So maybe I got it in like 89 or 90 or something. Maybe I didn't get it in 88. But I remember, I distinctly remember thinking like, oh, this is expensive for a starting lineup figure. But it was like, oh, I'm never going to find another Don Mattingly like that, this has been out for a little bit, so I just bought it. I remember thinking it was expensive as a kid. But
to say before, though, there is one other figure that's actually expensive because I sold it on the page, and I was amazed when I found out what the price was. Bill Laimbeer.
Oh, really?
Don't ask me why. I have no clue. Even when I listed it, I even said, I have no freaking clue why this figure is worth money, but he was worth
maybe it was
$50 to $100, where every little one.
I bet you it was like a really short run or something.
Bill
like that.
Laimbeer. If you ever find a Bill Laimbeer, he's worth money.
Yeah,
and it got claimed instantly by one of the trips, Nathaniel. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the history goes on. I mean, there's Littlest Pet Shop and Batman and Nerf. I guess Parker Brothers started Nerf. Do we know that? I didn't even know that.
I mean, I guess when they just combined them all, they just put them all underneath the same thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Tonka was purchased by Hasbro. We went over that. Kenner becomes a division of the largest toy company in the world. Other divisions of Hasbro include Milton Bradley Play School and the Hasbro Toy Division. And with Hasbro's purchase and resulting restructuring, Play-Doh is shifted to the Play School division of the company. Parker Brothers Nerf and Tonka's Cupcake doll lines are moved to Kenner products. Who the hell knew that Parker Brothers started Nerf? I mean, think about how big Nerf has been for 30 years now. Then they came out with all the guns and the darts, and I mean, it's still huge.
My kids still get Nerf guns, and they still get the water guns to this day, to play in the yard with them.
I mean, just think about how massive Hasbro is. I mean, say what you want about how they handle toy lines. I mean, it's a massive company. It's got to be.
It really is. Yeah, because they have so much other stuff going on for them than just toys.
I mean, just think about the library of toy lines, of licenses, or what are they? What's it called? Not licenses. Like intellectual property.
Copyrights.
Copyrights. The library that they have. I mean, all they have to do is go to their own library and say, "Hey, you want to revive this toy line and give it a shot?" Hey, there's a new Jurassic Park coming out. Whatever. And then they can release retro toys of these. I mean,
yeah, if they want to, yeah,
they could print money. I mean, like we said, the toy sales are not what they used to be. But all right. Anything else? I mean, that was a good review. That was a good.
I mean, I think we hit the most important things. I'm sure we screwed up on a couple of things. If we did, just definitely leave a comment. Please tell us why John sucks, and then we'll help you explain why he sucks also.
Yeah, there's a lot of people from Cincinnati probably know the history a lot better than we do. So if we,
without a doubt, like if this is like Ryan or his brother, I'm sure they would know a lot more information than what we know.
Yeah, I mean, you the last thing I see here, 2000, like you said, Hasbro announces it will shut down Cincinnati operations, ending 53 years of Kenner history. So from 1947 to 2000.
Yeah.
And, they're still using the logo, as one of their properties, for certain lines that it's associated with. But no more Cincinnati. Yeah. All right. That's going to do it. If you have some thoughts about this history, if you have anything to add that we can share with our audience in a future episode, please give us a call on the voicemail line. Leave us a message. And if you have a suggestion for some other toy company history that we can visit on another episode, go ahead, fire away, and we'll consider it. We'll play your voicemail on an episode and share it with everybody. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. You will have so much fun chatting with Charles down in the comments. Oh, yes. Yes. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, geese.
Bye, Charles. Good night. Good night, Charles.